It's a pretty special morning. I'm out here with my mom. This is the woman that gave birth to me, so I exist in huge part because of her. So we're watching a sunrise over at Hiram Reservoir, and I've got a couple of questions for you. I sent those to you last night to kind of stew on them for a little bit, but what is your definition of light and dark?
Definition of light and dark. For me, oh my goodness. Let's see if I can remember all the things that I thought about yesterday. Definition of light and dark is just knowing the truth versus error, right versus wrong. I think it encapsulates a lot for just everyday life.
Yeah.
It has, open and close. I mean, there's opposites to everything. So light and dark is just part of what Heavenly Father gave us to deal with that helps us make it through and always seek for the light. If you don't have the darkness, you don't see the light as brightly and clearly. It makes a huge difference, I think.
So based on your definition, have you ever experienced a sunrise in your life?
Oh, sunrise. I've had a lot of different things, a lot of different experiences in my life that have been times where I just, like a light switch was flipped on.
Yeah.
I remember the day that I graduated from BYU, 12 years of school and 4 years of college, and you get to graduation day and you think, oh man, I finished my education. And I walk in with all I forget how many thousand were graduating, and walk into the Marriott Center and sit down, and I look down on the floor and I see all these others who have gotten advanced degrees, who had, master's or doctorate. And it just washed over me that I hadn't finished anything. I had just begun to learn. And so that was kind of a sunrise for me, just a moment of, wow, this is just getting me started. And so it's been kind of a lifelong thing for me. I could be a professional student. I could take classes all the time. I love learning.
Yeah.
And so that kind of opened my eyes to the fact that no, you didn't finish learning. You're just getting started.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that I've been able to learn from you, is that you can always be learning. You have quite a few different skill sets and abilities that, especially, being my mom, I've seen so many people that are your age and older, younger even, that don't have the ability to understand or discern some of the, especially newer stuff like technology. I've seen you be able to get on things, like showing you Instagram stories yesterday, and you're like, okay, I get it. Anybody else, they wouldn't know what the heck was going on. So I think that that's really a pretty significant thing to do the rest of your life, is just continue learning.
Yeah, it's something I learned that from my mom and dad. My mom was a legal secretary, and she had worked for this little gentleman for years. And when he passed away, she ended up getting a job somewhere else. And it was computer-based, and it was when computers were just getting started.
Yeah.
And she would bring the books home, and she was probably in her 50s when she was doing this, bringing books home and sitting down and going through those every night so she could learn how to use a computer. And I remember the day she sent me an email that said, go to this email or this web address. I just created a website. And I was baffled because Mom knew more about computers than I did.
Yeah.
And my dad spent his life learning how to do things, reading. He was always reading, always learning, never stopped. I don't think he ever stopped learning, even up until the day he died. He just continued learning. So that's one of the things that has been handed down to you that they taught me how to do. Not necessarily sitting down and saying, we're going to teach you how to learn. That was just the way they lived.
Yeah.
And something I picked up on. They also taught me that there isn't anything that you can't accomplish. You can accomplish anything that you set your mind to.
Mm-hmm.
And I always believed that. I had friends that couldn't believe that. Why are you doing this? I said, why not? If I want to learn how to do something, I just do it. So yeah, learning has been a big, huge part of my life from the time I was little till even now. I continue to learn every day.
That's great, Mom. What about the word wholehearted? What is the definition of that word to you?
Wholehearted means somebody that every time you meet them, they are giving of themselves and not just what you want them to be, but who they really are. To me, it's somebody who's real, somebody who is, there's no pretense. They aren't trying to put on, as they used to say, put on airs or try to act like they are somebody that they're not just to impress you. I feel like somebody that's wholehearted, they are really giving of themselves and not worried about whether you are impressed by it or not. This is who I am.
So with that definition, is there anybody that embodies that in your life, and how have they impacted you?
I kept thinking about that last night, thinking, who do I know that's like that besides you?
Thanks.
You do that. But I thought back to my Aunt Doris. She's not really my aunt.
But you always called her that,
I called
right?
her Aunt Doris because she married Doris. So it's Doris and Doris. And as kids, it was confusing. So we just called them Aunt and Uncle. They didn't have any kids. And Dad had been in the Army with Uncle Doris. And they were lifelong friends with Mom and Dad. I was able to go spend time with her a number of times. They lived in Atlanta. We were in Chattanooga. And I would go down and spend time with her. They actually moved to Sarasota, Florida, and I spent a couple of weeks down there with her. She was the one who taught me to love interior design and architecture.
Mm-hmm.
In Atlanta, she would drive around and show us, just these amazing homes, and we'd go to the Braves baseball games, and she took me to Underground Atlanta and go to the beach. I mean, all these amazing experiences that I had. But she was happy. She was full of life. And I remember one day she looked at me, she said, I want you to smile for me. And I smiled, just kind of like just a smile. And she said, a smile is more than just with your mouth. A smile is with your eyes. And I always remember the beautiful twinkle that she had in her eyes. And I learned from her that that's what you have in your eyes when you're really smiling. She was never pretentious. She was always full of love, and somebody that had a huge, huge, huge impact on my life.
Wow.
She was one that, if I didn't have the mom I had, I would love to have had her be my mom. She was just an amazing lady.
Wow.
Loved her dearly.
So, do you have any negative beliefs or fears or doubts about yourself? And how do you overcome them? How have you fought to overcome them throughout your life?
Negative beliefs. I kind of grew up very, very, very confident. And in some ways oblivious to what people really thought about me. I wasn't close with too many people. I was kind of a loner. Had friends, but I wasn't the kind of girl that would go out and go running around with friends and go shopping and do that kind of stuff. And I still don't do very much of that. I just kind of stay to myself. Have some good friends that we visit with, but negative beliefs about myself, I think I've seen more as I've gotten older, the fear of rejection. And I think I had a lot of rejection when I was growing up, of wanting to be friends with somebody and them not wanting to be friends, or realizing that I was kind of a nerd, kind of weird, and the things that I did were a little different, and communication was never really easy. So that was probably one of the negative things about me, is trying to figure out how to talk to people and make sense with what I'm trying to say, which, that's why I asked you, what are you going to ask me for this? Because I'm not real good off the top of my head saying things. So yeah. And one of the things that I've always tried to do is think before I speak. And so sometimes by the time I've figured out what I should say, everybody's off on something else. So, that's one of the things that's been kind of difficult, negative about me, that may not be a negative to other people, but it feels that way to me, because I feel less attached and connected in what's going on, because I'm not really part of it often. I'm just observing.
Okay.
Is what it feels like.
So what do you do to overcome that?
Well, let's see. How many times have I read or listened to How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Yeah.
I think more than anything, rather than worrying about what people think, I spend more time worrying about what Heavenly Father thinks. And a couple of years ago, I had a lady who was telling me about her daughter had passed away, and she said, nobody called. She said, I got one phone call, and I got one card. She said, we're in this little tiny town, everybody knew, but nobody said anything, and she was really heartbroken. And I asked her when that had happened, because I didn't know that her daughter had died. It's not someone I knew really well.
Yeah.
And she said, it was last year during August. I said, Nancy, I was gone the entire month. I had no idea that had happened to you. And we talked for a while about different things going on. But as I walked away from her, I had a very, very clear message in my mind or my heart, whichever way Heavenly Father sent it to me, that said, your job is to lift and lighten. And so that's kind of what I have tried to use to overcome, not worrying about how I connect or how I come across to people. I just try to remember that Heavenly Father sent me here to lift and lighten others. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to worry about myself. He wants me to lift others and lighten their load, to do whatever I can, even if it's a smile, if somebody's having a hard day, being kind to somebody that I don't know. Just, and those that I do know, and I know they're going through a hard time, whatever I can do to lift their hearts and lighten their load, that is what I try to do. And it helps me kind of overcome these feelings of inadequacy and rejection and stuff, as, get outside yourself, quit worrying about yourself, and none of that really matters once you start helping other people. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that reminds me of Gordon B. Hinckley's letter that he received from his dad when he went out to his mission in London. I think it was in the UK somewhere at least. Forget yourself and go to work.
Yep.
And I think you're right. The times that I'm more self-conscious, I'm just so focused on me and not really thinking about other people. And as soon as you flip the perspective and start thinking about other people, it just makes it so much easier to be like, yeah, whatever.
That's
I got weaknesses, whatever. I'm trying out here though. That's what matters.
Yeah.
So, that's great, Mom. Well, yeah, thank you for sharing this.
Oh, it's been fun.
Yeah, good.
I love you.
I love you too, Mom.